everyone! Pineapple here with the One Piece live action season 1, The Chef and the Chore Boy. The ending of the Baratie arc and leading us into the season's endgame. Last episode, Zoro put too much stock into his stupid points. It's lucky he's still kicking. Nami tried to abandon the crew, but her heart got the better of her. And Luffy is scouting out Sanji for the crew while projecting his grandfatherly issues onto his relationship with Zeph. So will the Baratie arc finish off well, or will it flail to the finish? Let's see as we get into the episode. Coming out of the last episode, all of them are freaking out in their own ways, but Nami's on the ball, sending Luffy for help, while Sanji and Zeph are at it again. But much nicer than the yelling matches before. I actually really like seeing their bond. Sanji decides to fob Zeph off and help Zoro with the power of cuisine. So Zeph is convinced to help. Wow, he may talk a big game, but he really is a pushover for Sanji. Of course, we have another personalized title card, and I will bring it up since it's right here in my face. The Jolly Roger skull here does have Sanji's signature eyebrow. And I have seen complaints that the live action Sanji doesn't have it, but to be fair, watching the anime you don't even notice it half the time, and unless you're thinking of planning for an aspect of what I think is all the way in the whole Cake Island saga, an aspect that really could just be done away with, I don't really care about the eyebrow. It would look too silly for one of the main characters in live action, and be super annoying to have done in a realistic manner for Taz Skylar. But if they did go that route, with the stunts and moves that guy seems to pull in real life, he'd probably do it.
Is that to sterilize the wounds?
Hell no, that'd be a waste of really good liquor.
So with the power of fish, Zeph stabilizes Zoro, but he's not in the clear. 1 foot in the grave. Sure, Zeph is a bit poetic with it, but he essentially tells them to stay by his side and talk to him, which is a really nice sentiment. But let's be honest, in the One Piece world, for all we know, the power of talking can keep you out of the grave. Meanwhile, Mihawk meets with Garp and decides that he's letting Luffy go for shits and giggles because he's interesting, thinking he may even one day find the One Piece. And Garp has a very normal reaction to this.
I'll take my dinner in the mess hall tonight.
Luffy is still struggling with Zoro's condition, but trying to make the best of it, even turning down food just to help take care of Zoro's sword.
I really gotta get the Wadaichi monkey ready for him.
The what?
Sanji has some good words for Luffy, giving him some captainly advice, revealing Zeph used to be a pirate, and throwing us into Sanji's flashbacks to the time he met Zeph. Sanji was cooking on a ship in the East Blue as a child, and I love this kid's hair. Sure, his acting's not bad, whatever, but the way they've styled his hair to be like Sanji's, I love it. The adults flee, but Zeph's first thought is to invade the kitchen and fix Sanji's food, much to the kid's anger.
Needs oregano.
Zeph is ready to cut Sanji, but when the kid vows not to die before finding the All Blue, the ship sinks, only Zeph and Sanji making it out alive. The two are stranded on a tall island, Zeph splitting the food and sending Sanji to the other side so they can both search for ships. It takes 70 days until Sanji, desperate and out of food, goes after Zeph with the knife he has, although for obvious health reasons they can't make him look as emaciated as in the anime, child abuse and all that lovely stuff, but I think with the small clips of time passing and the makeup are enough to sell the desperate passage of time up there. So in said desperation, Sanji takes the knife and climbs over to the other side of the rock, but Zeph is weak and helpless, so Sanji goes straight for his food only to find it never existed. And in its place is a bag of pirate treasure. Zeph had no food to begin with, and instead the pirate ate his own leg. And while the different shows have different interpretations on how he loses the leg, be it saving Sanji underwater, or in this case, showing the rock he used to sever the leg covered in blood, so this is my favourite direction. It doubles down on Zeph's heart. He not only gave the kid all the food they had, but he mutilated himself so he could give the kid all the real food. And that's a fantastic character turn, as Zeph wanted Sanji to live and seek out the dream of the All Blue, the pirate having failed his whole life to find it, and hopes that the young man can carry on in the search. Zeph was good in the anime, but like Buggy, this real-life actor injects so much nuance and emotion as a physical actor. Even though I did like Baratie in the anime, this beats it out on many points.
Believe me, the All Blue is real. It's real. And if I can't find it, well, then maybe you can.
The flashbacks end revealing they made it out of there, and unlike the Garp comparison, this actually allows Luffy to empathize with Sanji, Shanks having done the very same for him when he lost his arm. Nami has been reading to Zoro all this time, and she's reading him a story that just so happens to be a story that becomes very important in the Sky Island saga, and she's having a bit of a rough time. And including the story this early not only allows for a fantastic parallel in what could become of Nami, who she has the potential of being, but Emily Rudd plays it super well, especially when she blows up at Luffy for not stopping Zoro from facing Mihawk. And unlike the anime, keeping Nami here this long, instead of running straight into the Arlong Park arc, was the correct choice since it allows for these emotional moments and arguments. Meanwhile, Kobe is trying to help Garp understand Luffy, but I'm fairly sure it's going to bite him in the ass to an obvious degree. And their faffing around allows time for the fishermen to make it to Baratie. Arlong at the center with his minions Karubi and Chu. But I just think of them as karate and lips because let's face it, compared to Arlong, they aren't really real characters. But they do look fairly good. Arlong essentially takes the place hostage, intimidating everyone into staying, Zeph and his ridiculously large hat coming out to run Arlong around, refusing to tell him Luffy's whereabouts, but Nami now knows he's here. Luffy and Usopp are instead by Zoro's bedside, but before he can get too heartfelt, Nami's barreling in to tell him it's time to run. But when Sanji goes to defend the restaurant, Luffy goes to help, wanting to protect the restaurant and the people to pay back Zeph. And thanks to Nami thinking it's his fault they're threatening people. Arlong starts getting really racist and virtue signaling with his business. Infuriated, the waitstaff is one of his kind. It's really strange because Arlong's whole character is that he thinks he's better than humans, and that he should rule over them. That he should be able to do whatever he wants, but goes around calling others racists. And in the anime, myself now being just past Thriller Bark, I find it funny I can't think of a single instance of fishman racism other than with Arlong. Because this waiter guy isn't a slave, he has a job. And the only other prominent fisherman I can think of is Tom, and his drama was primarily about who he was building ships for, not his race. So I'm not sure whether Arlong as a character is supposed to represent evil people trying to justify their actions, which could be kinda clever, or if this is just kind of a lazy aspect of the world building and I'm gonna have to wait until Fishman Island for any of it to actually matter. It's not like we have anyone out here making up slurs for fishermen, at least not that I can remember. It's not like anyone's calling him a dirty fisher. And yes, if we are making up slurs for fishermen pirates, that would be with a hard R. Alright, since that last part of the joke was tacked on by my father, I really need you to tell me exactly out of 10 how dad jokey that felt, because saying it felt like a 10 out of 10. Luffy finally makes it to face off with Arlong.
You know, I was expecting someone bigger.
So was I.
That's what I was saying like 2 episodes ago. It turns out Buggy's severed head has been keeping tabs on Luffy by sneaking an ear into his hat. I feel like with how meticulous he is with the hat, in fact filling it up last episode for God's sake, he should have found an ear in there. Buggy's little cameo is really fun, but the CGI could maybe have used a little more cooking. Arlong wants the map, but of course Luffy ain't backing down, even when Arlong tanks a bullet from Zeph. Sanji takes on Mr. Fish Karate, and I love the way they went about translating Sanji's fighting style. Sure, it's better later on, but this is a nice early showing. The physics that look a little bit wireworky look fairly well done, but Arlong beats Luffy in the end, tossing him outside and roughing him up some more. Nami has one last moment with Zoro, but in order to stop Luffy getting killed, she swans in mid-fight to give Arlong the map, convincing him to just toss Luffy into the water instead of straight up ripping his throat out, actually giving him a fighting chance. Now, the Nami betrayal thing, fairly obvious, especially in this version, but I like that Arlong's arrival upped the stakes for her instead of her stealing the ship and bailing in the anime. Not only does it help solidify Luffy and Nami's arcs being the main focus of the season, but allows for more well-written and performed moments between the crew, instead of having to go through the Don Krieg fight and just having her disappearing. and then not knowing where she is, having to run around the island for a majority of 14 episodes before really getting into it. Sanji shirts off and mans up, pulling Luffy from the water, but not from his denial. And with the Marines, the obvious backfiring of Kobe's words becomes clear, but honestly, at this point, he doesn't seem to actually change anything. Just makes a kind of not very rousing speech. Back at Baratie, Zeph starts his cleaning up, Sanji starting to help, but Zeph blows up on him, making very clear he wants Sanji gone. Zeph clearly caring, but trying his best to get Sanji to leave no matter what he has to say.
Do you want me to quit? Is that what you want? Quitting is staying here! Don't you get it? It's one thing to have a dream, it's another to go after it.
Usually the let go of what you love even if you have to hurt them trope can get annoying, but the scenes these two have and the acting, no shade to Sanji but Zeph especially, has me rethinking my opinion of this arc. Sure, I'm annoyed it's kind of lost its own identity and becoming mostly set up for Arlong Park, but these character moments are really strong. Clearly not as so-and-so as I recalled it from my first watch. Luffy returns to Zoro's bedside, finally finding a crack in his relentless optimism, and taking responsibility for the bad things that happened. And with Zoro making his promise last episode, him waking up at Luffy's request is really sweet. Zoro now properly vows to stand by Luffy for the long game, and needing their full crew, it's time to follow Nami. They stock up on food before leaving, and Sanji decides to hop on board with a rockin' theme. But as they go, Zeph and Patty along with the rest of the staff see Sanji off, and it's pretty good. I'm pretty sure this heart-wrenching goodbye is the most deep-cutting emotions I've felt from Sanji in general. They need to know where she went, so Luffy reveals he has Buggy's head, ending the episode. Well, it may not even approach canon, but I simply can't say no to more Buggy. So ending the Baratie arc, we had some fairly good fights, not hitting the personality of Zoro vs Mihawk, but still really interesting. But where this episode really works is the emotional core, as it's both capping off the Baratie arc and leading us into the season's endgame with Nami that we've been building towards. Nami's stuff with Luffy and Zoro were great, and between the flashbacks and their current day back and forths, including the way it reflects Luffy and his own relationships, were really solid to me. But I understand how they slipped my mind when I watched it originally, since I was put off kilter by the arc switching around and going straight into Arlong Park. So while I do think it loses a bit of its solid image, these episodes do work really well in this season. Thank you everybody for watching my review of episode 6 of the One Piece live action. Please like the video if you liked it, comment down below if you wish, consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, ring the notification bell so you're told every single time that I make an upload. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next review. Bye!
Toast. A little piece of toast. Because there's so much to choose from. There's brown bread, white bread, all sorts of wholemeal bread. It comes in funny packages with writing on the side.